Hi, it's Laura here from Keela's customer success team. I hope you're having a great day. In this video, I'll be showing you how you can create your very own Keela donation form. We know how important it is to collect donations online, so we've created Keela forms to do just that. Before you can start to accept donations through a Keela donation form, you'll need to set up your receipts and integrate with the payment processor in Keela. Don't worry, if you forget to do that before you create your form, we'll definitely remind you in the system. Okay, let's get started with making a donation form. All your forms in Keela are housed under this Forms section in the left-hand sidebar. From here, you'll be able to see any of your existing forms, as well as create any new forms, which is what I'll be tackling today. You'll notice that in Keela, there's a bunch of different types of forms that you can create. First are donation forms, which is what I'll be showing you today. Donation forms are going to save you tons of time, as when a contact completes the form and submits payment via the Stripe or PayPal integration, the donation will automatically be created in Keela under the contact profile, and the contact will also automatically be issued a charitable receipt. Easy peasy, right? There's also revenue forms. And this allows your organization to accept payments that aren't donations. So unlike a donation form, a charitable receipt will not be issued to anyone that submits payment through a revenue form, and they'll only receive a transaction receipt. You might want to use a revenue form if you're running an event and need to collect both payment and RSVPs from your contacts. The next option is a membership form, so you can collect membership subscriptions and payments for those online. Next up is a subscription form, and this allows your contacts to sign up for your mailing list. And last but not least is a custom form, which is really any form that you'd like to create to collect information from your contacts. For example, you might want to create this form to collect RSVPs for a free event, or to even ask your contacts to sign up to volunteer with your organization. Or maybe you could do both on one form. The sky's really the limit with Keela forms. Today, though, I'll just be going over the donation form. But the great thing about forms is even though we have many different types, all the settings across the forms are very similar. So once you know how to create one form, the setup process is going to be very similar for the rest, making setting up more Keela forms super easy. Okay, let's continue. There's just a few more options before you get into the form setup itself, such as adding a form to a campaign. So if, say, you have any volunteer activity or transactions on the form, it's going to be tracked to any campaigns that you already have set up in Keela. You can also add a form description. You can also have assignees for your forms, who's really the owner. If you're creating the form, you'll be the assignee by default, but you can always change this if you'd like. Lastly, we have followers. So these are team members who can receive notifications each time a response is submitted through the form. Okay, so that's the basics of creating the form. Next, we're going to go to the form setup. We could do that by clicking Save. This is the fun part. Alrighty, let's get this party started. Once you click Save, you're going to land on the form overview page. This is where you'll start to receive form responses once your form is published and shared with your contacts. For now, let's move right on over to the Setup tab. Let's go over this form overview first. This is all the settings that we just set up. So if you need to make any changes later on, you can always click the three dots under Form Overview to make any changes. You can also duplicate any forms here, which is going to save you tons of time if you say set up a form specific to Giving Tuesday and would like to use the same formatting for the next year, but need to create a new form for tracking and also just need to make a few changes. Easy peasy, just duplicate the form and make some edits from there. You can also archive the form, and this is going to push the form from the Forms tab on the Overview page to the Archive tab. This is a really good way to push any closed forms that you aren't using anymore out of your workspace, but still have them available for future reference. And last but not least, you can also delete the form from here. All right, now for the fun parts. Next up, we're going to choose all of the form settings that are going to be available to the contacts when they go to complete your form. The first setting you can set up is all the donation amounts. First of all, we're going to choose what frequency of donations are going to be available to your contacts when they give you a donation. So the first option is that they'll be able to give you a one-time or a recurring donation through the form. They'll have the option to choose either or. The next options are they'll only have the option to give you a one-time donation, or they'll only have the option to give you a recurring donation. Okay? Next up is the preset donation amounts that your donors are going to see. You can do this through the donation tiers, and that won't be connected to any impact areas. Or if you're planning on using impact areas and would like your donors to be able to contribute directly to certain areas of your organization or any programs you're running, you could choose the impact areas option. This way, everything's going to be linked up and tracked in your impact areas. Note that when you do link this up, you'll have to create that impact area first for it to appear on the form. So I'm going to add a few impact areas. So from an impact area I already set up, provide tools for outdoor programs. $25. Oops. So I can write out the recommended amount and how their money is going to make an impact. You can add more amounts here. If you have any extra amounts, you can click the X button as well to remove them. I'm going to go ahead and save. And if I wanted, I could add another impact area. Sponsor a child for an outdoor program. Oops. Just like that. And we're going to see how it looks in the Designer tab once we get there. Okay, now let's look at the visible fields next. So you can toggle on and off all these settings according to whatever your needs are. The first one is custom donation amount. So in addition to the recommended donation amounts I had set up in either the donation tiers or the impact areas, you can also allow your donors to choose a custom donation amount. I'm going to go ahead and toggle this on. You can also allow donors to dedicate their donation. You can allow them to cover the processing fee. And the last option is cumulative receipting, which allows donors that are submitting a recurring donation the option to receive one receipt at the end of the year rather than a receipt every time they donate throughout the year. Yes, please. All right, next up, we're going to set up the form fields. So by default, every form is set up to receive donations from both organizations and individuals. And this makes sure you're going to get accurate tax receipting. But if you'd like, you can also adjust this so it's the form's only for individuals or only organizations. You'll notice that if you do choose to go with both, you'll see fields that will appear depending on if the donor chooses to donate as an individual or an organization. So for example, an individual, we're going to ask them for their first name and last name. But if they choose that they're donating as an organization, we're going to ask them for their company name instead, as this should show up on the tax receipt. So Keela provides a few different fields by default that we think you should include on your donation form, but this is completely up to you. You can toggle on and off what you'd like to appear on the form, and you can also choose if it's going to be a required field or not. Down below, you can also add any additional form questions that aren't included up here. If the question is related to a custom field that you've already created in Keela, you can link up this custom question to that field so the reply will end up on the contact profile. If you don't link up these questions to a Keela field, we'll still collect the responses and they'll just be available under form responses. Let me show you an example. So I'm going to ask a question. It's going to be a single line text, and the associated custom field I had in Keela was test. Sorry, not a great example on this one, not creative here, but I'll make it up, I promise. So really any questions. And similar to the custom fields, there's a bunch of different question types that you can add as well. Okay, now that we have all the settings ready to go, now we can move on to the designer tab. You can click this or you can move there by clicking proceed to designer, or you can just move on over to the designer tab up at the top. All right, now we're on the form designer page. And this is how you can customize how the form looks to better match your organization's branding. So to get started, I'm going to move to Style Settings. From here, you can choose if you'd like your donation form to be one page or multi-page. You can also play around with the width of the form using the settings here. You can also upload a background image to your form. And you can also play around with the different colors for your buttons and the titles. So as you're getting started, you'll probably start with just introducing the different colors to your form. So you can see I can change the content section. Color is going to change so I can see it right away. In my case, I'm going to keep that white. I would like a little bit of green for my different titles. And the button and title font colors can also change as so. Here, I'll show you the buttons, but in my case, I like the white on color. I think that looks nice. If you do have the hex code for your organization, you could also add it in here, and then that way you'll have an exact match. Okay, so next I'm going to move over to the content sections. Let's start with customizing the header. So from here, I can choose if I'd like to display the header block at all. So if I remove that, it's going to disappear. But I do want a header. Maybe though I don't necessarily want to show my organization name or my tagline, so I could say toggle those off. I can also upload an image here, or if I'd prefer, I can just have a background color with, say, my organization name and tagline. In my case, I'm going to upload an image. Okay, so once I pulled that from my desktop, I can either rotate the image or crop the image before I upload it into Keela. But in my case, I've already adjusted it, so I can go ahead and just upload it from here. Wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. So the next option now is the body. So from here, I can make changes to the title. Please donate now. And I can add a message to my donors. And you can see how horrible of a typer I am. And there's lots of different options for your formatting here, but just for this example, I'm not going to touch any of those. You can change the background again if you'd like, or you can also remove the body if you don't want to leave a message. Okay, next up is another image. So if say you had a poster that you'd like to upload here, you can definitely go ahead and do that. Same as before, so you can upload the image, and you can also add a title. In this case, I don't need an additional image, so I'm going to remove this block from my form. Next up is campaign. So if you remember, I had added this form to a campaign in the overview, or sorry, in the form setup. So I can make changes to the campaign here to tell everyone a little bit more about my campaign, or if I want, I can just remove that as well. Completely up to you. Next up is all the different form information. So you can change the title for this one and the background color, but remember that we set this up in the Setup tab. So if you do want to make any changes now that you can see it live, you can go back to Setup, make a change, and then it's going to show up live here, which is super handy. So remember we set up all the different impact areas? So we provide tools for outdoor programs. A donor will be able to choose exactly how much they'd like to donate, or remember we toggled on the options so they can also choose their own amount. They would also be able to choose their own amount here. Instead, if they'd like to sponsor a child, they can just click here on this button, and here's all the different options to sponsor a child, or they can donate what they can. Now, I'm going to show you what happens if I make a change. So the impact area selector style I had originally set up is buttons, but say I wanted to change it to drop downs. I can do that and then go back to designer, and you can see now it's changed to a drop down. Cool, right? So as you go through, don't worry too much about what you have set up because you can always change it later and toggle back and forth between the different tabs to see how it looks. This is the best way to get the form exactly how you'd like it. So again, you can see that we've allowed our donors to choose a one-time or a monthly donation. If say I only allow them to do a one-time donation, I go back to designer. You can see that only one time appears. They're not able to choose anymore. All right, I think you got the point for that. Now I'm just gonna keep scrolling down, and remember, here's our custom question down at the bottom. And on my account, I have both Stripe and PayPal set up. So the donors will be able to choose between one of the two options. If I just had credit card would appear only, or PayPal, PayPal would only appear. All right, last one is footer. So you'll notice that you only have contact us. So you can only choose what the title of the footer is going to be and the background color and whether or not you'd like the footer at all. But there's a bunch of data down here, and this is all pulled from your organization settings. So if you'd like to make any changes here, head on over to your organization settings and make those changes. Okay, next up, we have a thank you page. So once your donor does donate using PayPal or the Stripe integration on that form, they're going to be sent to this thank you page. The settings here are very similar to the form page in that I can change the header if I'd like. I kind of like this mountain range, it looks nice. But I can change also the title. So right now it's donation completed, and I'm going to want to change this to thank you for your generous donation. And then I can maybe add a little bit more information about how their donation helps us get kids outside more often. Next up, we have the form closed page. So this is in the case that you decide to close a form. So say Giving Tuesday has ended, you no longer want to accept donations through that page. So you've set up a different donation form on your website. You'll want to close the existing Giving Tuesday form so no one can submit responses to it anymore. But some of your donors might still have that link. So they might still access that form. Um, but they won't actually be able to make a donation because you've closed it. You definitely don't want them to get lost. So this is what's going to show up when they go to the URL of a form that's been closed. Here you could add your message. You'd say something like, oops. You could say, come to this form instead, and link up your new form. Or you could say, oops, it looks like you came to a form that's no longer in use. Please contact us, and link it to your contact us page, or put your contact information straight in here. Okay, so that goes through the Form Designer tab. Okay, you are an absolute legend. You've made it through creating a form, completing the setup of the form, designing the form, and the last step is configuring the last settings before you share it with your contacts. All right, so before you can share your form with anyone, you'll need to publish it first. Now, if you'd like, you can definitely publish your form and then provide this link to all of your colleagues so they can see the form in action. Then you can make any changes from there. Since this is your own unique URL, none of your contacts will have access to the form yet, so you can feel comfortable publishing it without sharing the URL and still making some tweaks as you go. When you're ready to go, then it's time to share. So the way you can share is by using this public link, so this URL. You can also get some help from your web administrator and embed the form straight into your website. You can also use the embed button code, and this is going to link it straight to a button on your site if you have like donate now. Once they click that button, they'll go straight to the Keela form. So this is the code for embedding the form and embedding the button that you'll need to add to your website. If you don't have a website or an administrator that can help you with that, you can definitely share your form just by sharing the link as well. Next up, we have a setting to auto tag contacts. So if you want to tag any contacts that complete your form, you can definitely do so from here. So I've given you a, a lot of examples of Giving Tuesday. So for example, if we wanted to keep with that example, we could tag anyone with Giving Tuesday 2020 tag that completes this form. Say if it was for Giving Tuesday. Last but not least, we have the form field replacement logic. So this is going to determine what happens to the information that you receive on the form when you already have that specific contact in Keela. Here's your options. You can choose to only update any empty fields. So if we have Oprah as our contact and she doesn't have any information in a field, say, what's your favorite color? If she filled that out on the form, we're going to update that field. But say she updated her address in the form, but we already have an address in Keela. It would not update because we only want to update any empty fields. You can also choose Always Replace. In this case, we're going to replace all the information that Oprah has filled out. So we would replace her favorite ice cream, and we would also replace the address even though she already has an address in Keela. The last option is to always create a new contact. So in this case, we're going to create a second contact profile for Oprah, and then you can have complete control over which fields are going to be updated because you can go ahead and merge Oprah's profile later on. So this last option is going to give you the most control, but Always Replace option seems good as well because if the contact is filling out a form, they're probably going to give you the most up-to-date information. But it's whatever works for your organization. That's why we give you the option. All right, so that's it, folks. If you have any questions while you're creating the form or once it has been created and you need help sharing it, just let us know. We're here for you. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you've enjoyed creating a Keela donation form with me. Have a good one.